Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. I am one of your three hosts, Illeagle 86, and I am joined, as always, by my fantastic friends, Nerdbomber and
Techtic.
Techtic.
Hello.
Fantastic.
Hi. Hello, everybody.
We have a great episode. We have a great episode for you guys. Nerdbomber's going to just talk like that for the whole episode. That's what's going to be great about it. Today's video game episode. We're going to be talking Xbox. We're going to be talking PlayStation Direct. We're going to be talking those things. So if you're a gamer, mount up, I guess is what I'll say. That sounded weird.
Yeah,
but
I don't love that.
Saddle up, boys.
Saddle up. We're on a one-way train to Game Town. I don't know. Before we get into that stuff, though, I want to get the conversational juices percolating in a way that I often do. I was having a conversation with my mom today.
Aww.
And that's not what the topic is here, but we were talking about what happened to malls.
Oh, they died.
Malls are okay, but can we unpack that? Because we're in our neck of the woods, and this is not going to give away where we live, because this is probably like most places, at least in America. There is a mall that at one point
it was
vibrant. It had
the center
bustle
of the community, in my opinion. Everybody went there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I don't understand?
About this exact thing.
I think malls do have their place because
they do.
Regular department stores has their place. And so you have a town filled with all of these hodgepodge department stores that are commonplace and very widely used. Put those in the fucking malls instead of all the weird kitschy
he's coming out strong.
all of the random stores. And then you can use the spot where all of these ones that were vibrantly traveled and things like that. Now you have more space for if you wanted to make a residential area, or hell, just nice walkable public spaces.
We're changing it. This episode is going to be about malls, because I have a lot to say about malls. So just, again, saddle up, mount up, whatever I said before. So the mall I'm referring to, which, Nerdbomber, I know you at least know what mall I'm talking about, because we both grew up next to this mall. I mean, it used to have a food court with it had a Burger King in it. It had all the places, all right? Not nice restaurants, but big name restaurants. It had a bunch of big name stores. You're talking Payless Shoes. You're talking Radio Shack. You're talking Famous Footwear. You're talking JCPenney, of course. It had all these things. It was hopping. And like you said, and what my mom said, the same as you, which is that you would go to the mall, at peak mall, at least when I was a kid, and we're talking the 90s, early 2000s, people would go to the mall not even to shop. They would go just to go to the mall. And that went away. And I want to unpack that, because my mom, who obviously is of a different generation than me, it wouldn't make sense if it were any other way. She was like, it's because of the internet. And I don't agree with that.
I disagree wholeheartedly, actually.
Yeah. I don't agree with that. I think what happened is it's a domino effect, right? Where if a mall raises its rent and it's too expensive for one store that's good, that store will leave. And because that store left, less people will come to the mall. Therefore, less people will go to those other stores in the mall. Those stores will have to leave, and then eventually there's no stores in the mall, except right now that mall, it's still open. Nerdbomber, have you guys been to that mall recently?
Yeah, we were in there I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. There's not many things in there. There's I don't know, a Best Buy.
Weird stuff.
I think a lot of weird, there's a cornhole tournament place, which is very confusing, but the gate was down and I'm like, what? And a lot of
the stuff that takes over
karate
malls is
dojos.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that takes over real estate in malls that you would not expect. And there's also a preponderance of stores that they open, and they're such niche market things that you're there's no way you're making enough money to pay the rent on this place. So what are we doing?
Malls are dead.
And then meanwhile,
because disposable income is dead. It has nothing to do with the stores.
I disagree with that too. I think you're closer, certainly, than the internet. It's definitely something economic, but I don't know.
I think
exactly
it
what
is an economic thing, because if you look back in the 90s and the 2000s, I mean, I'm looking at your Hollisters, and granted, this is the teen era.
American Eagle.
Yeah, all of those things were really expensive. Like I remember my family personally, like we didn't have a lot of Hollister stuff because we couldn't afford it, but a lot of people did, and a single hoodie was like $100. And like
Right.
now I feel like people go to Kohl's or Target, and I'm sure people, I mean, Shein is so big, and I know that's fast fashion, but the reason why it's so big and like H&M is thriving still in today's market is because it's cheap. And I don't think you
because of slave labor, first of all.
I know.
Over that.
I mean, it's not necessarily ethically cheap, but I don't think people can afford the number of like $100 options, because you even go back, and I know a lot of these stores still exist, but you had your Abercrombie, and again, I know these are teen stores, but you have your Abercrombie, Aeropostale, American Eagle, Hollister, all of those were selling like $100+ items, and people would go to all of them in a single shopping trip, and I just don't think that's sustainable. So those stores were not sustainable. And it's the same thing for adults too. I just don't remember what stores were around in like the 90s for adults, because I was not one. But like I'm assuming like Express, and I know Express is still around as well.
Banana Republic.
Yeah.
Banana Republic.
Like all of those things were really expensive, but people would go to multiple of those stores, and I just don't think that's sustainable right now.
And so if you reinvigorate the middle class, you just completely stimulate the economy and bring back malls. I'm telling you, it literally like all of these major, I hate to get super like economist here, but like all of these major corporations are trying to make the quick bucks, and they're being not so nearsighted and gotta make profits this quarter. They're slowly but surely completely getting rid of the middle class and eroding any disposable income, and it's going to just late stage capitalism, baby. That's it.
But I also think part of it too is, for whatever reason, the out parcel and like real estate, and this is actually like a thing. So there was that.
What does
boom.
out parcel mean?
So like,
I'm not even joking. I don't know what it means.
The kind of there's plazas now, but also like when you go to a mall and there's all the buildings around it, but not connected to the mall, but all the things like basically surrounding the parking lot, those are all out parcels. And those all started cropping up. This is actually like if you go back in the history of malls, because I went down a rabbit hole on this like, I don't know, a couple years ago.
I want to go. Can you point me to that rabbit hole? Because like I kind of want to like watch a 5-hour YouTube video essay on why malls
I have to
died.
dig it up, but there was like, I watched it was like a 45-minute video one time when I was bored. I think it was like over COVID, about like the downfall of the mall. And part of it too was the boom in real estate. And so what was happening was out parcels would crop up, and these development companies would start, kind of surrounding malls with alternative locations for these stores. So then when the lease ran up in the mall, they'd offer a cheaper alternative. And then eventually plazas started coming back again and offered an even cheaper alternative. And then the mall was dying. So then they moved away from the out parcels into dedicated plazas, which is why now like you'll see in a lot of cities like a Target Plaza, where it's not a mall centric thing anymore. It's based around one big like superstore. And even within those, like if you watch your local Target Plaza or Kohl's Plaza or what have you, the stores tend to come and go, and new plazas are constantly popping up, and they're all trying to undercut each other to become, like the center hub of shopping. But then eventually you just end up with a bunch of dead plazas.
So this particular mall that we're referring to, like if you look, a few of the stores, to kind of underline your point, like a few of the stores that used to be in that mall literally left the mall and moved across the street to the strip mall across the street. So location wise, you really haven't changed much. You probably just lowered your rent significantly, and now you have a visible storefront. Like it's very, I want to like, I'm inclined to, setting aside the idea that this may be, because like I also think it may be cultural in the sense of like, in the 80s, malls were a huge deal. And in the 90s, malls were a huge deal. And then, like, it's going to make me sound like a really old person, but, like, in the 2000s and the 2010s, like, you mentioned, like, kids going to malls and, like, teenagers shopping at malls. And now, like, the world is, like, categorically less safe, or at least so we all seem to believe. So, like, is that part of why it failed? Setting aside all of that stuff, I want to, like, understand economically. I want to like grab the owners of this mall real estate and shake them by the shoulders and say, why could you not make this work? Because it was such a formative part of my childhood, going to the mall. And I want that for future generations. That like got very poignant, but like it was a huge deal for me as a kid. Like Friday night, get out of elementary school or middle school or whatever, and my parents would say, we're going to the mall. And it was like, I don't know, a really idyllic slice of suburbia in a sense.
Nah, I'm going to recommend my childhood. I couldn't afford to go to malls. What we did on Friday night is we dug holes for fun.
But again, I'm not even saying we went to the mall and bought stuff. Like, yeah, sometimes we did, but like there were times we would go and it was just to be there. Like it was a social outing of sorts. It's just, I don't know. I'm sorry, I spiraled this down a conversational hole that I did not intend for us to go down. But I was just having this conversation today, and it really heated me up a little bit of like, why did malls? Because like, is it fair to say now that malls are dead? Like, there still are malls, but like they've been kind of eviscerated.
Yeah,
and I hate that. You know, we need to bring them back. We need to bring back malls. We need to bring back drive-ins. I want to like run for president, and that's going to be my stump speech, is just that sentence. And I think I do pretty well.
Malls and drive-ins. Drive-ins and malls.
I recommend my approach with stimulate the middle class as opposed to drive-ins and malls.
But it is like, it is
hood.
a part, they're both critical pieces of like middle class Americana. Like when you watch old movies where characters are like, quote unquote, living the good life, they're going to drive-in movies. They're going to the mall. And like now it's just like that's over. And again, I'm really going like old person shouting at cloud at this point. But again, it just really heated me up. Let's talk about games. Let's make ourselves a little bit happier. Let's talk about the state of play.
Actually, can we talk about something that really heated me up? And I don't want to hijack this.
Yeah.
But
no, we can all go around and do this. This is great for me.
Can I know I've hated on this game before. Baby in the backpack, which no one's in a backpack in the sequel of this game. But like,
that's what you think.
What?
Baby
Death
in a
Stranding
backpack.
too.
Death
She's
Stranding
getting hot
too.
with Death Stranding.
Oh.
Like,
okay, I thought you were literally talking about a game.
now
called
it's
Baby
like
in a
I think the
Backpack. I was so
babies might be in their bellies, so it's like Baby Bjorn.
No, it's
game.
Samurai Baby.
I don't know, but like
I hated that part, by the way.
What is
It was
happening
horrible.
in this? Like, I'm sorry. What
Yeah.
were the weird little glove hand mask things that were just moving on their own? What was with the weird?
I actually love that.
Really?
I actually love that. I thought it was so cool. It's a cool like world building that's
But,
very
like,
subtle.
why?
They don't make no mention of it.
What does
Just
that
good. I don't know,
do?
it's cool.
No one else had
It
them.
gives her an extra pair of hands. I
I'm
don't know why
excited
no
for
one
the
else had
cosplay around that, I will say.
Okay, and then the little keychain guy who felt like a ripoff of Mimir,
it. Of Mimir. Yeah,
Like-
it was a total ripoff of Mimir.
and then the guitar guy, which felt like a ripoff of Hi-Fi Rush. What was
I like
happening
that part
there?
too, though.
Like,
I like that part too.
well, play Hi-Fi
I think it
Rush.
might have also been. Well, it also might have been a little bit of a ripoff of like, because there's like Mad Max characters that are like that. If you ever watch Fury Road, they're kind of like that. They're not like fighting with the guitars, but like they're doing stuff with guitars, and they look very much like that.
I continue to be confused by this franchise. And
Well,
I feel like somebody needs to give me a TLDR on what the hell, because no one has been able to succinctly explain to me what the hell is happening in this franchise. And
I think you just don't understand it.
I guess not.
well, okay. I don't think I do either. But like, here's my thing with this. First of all, yeah, the baby.
By the
part,
way,
horrifying.
I don't understand
Horrifying.
it either. I'm totally being a jackass.
The baby part was horrifying because the baby, you're like, are you in the birth canal? Where are you when you're looking at this baby?
I have no idea. And it's got like
It's
weird
crying
little
black
like
tears.
inky eyes. Ugh.
Yeah, that part was not great. I will say, and as much as we're about to crap on this, we've already started. This looked better than the first, but in terms of like trailers and like
It looked
enticing
less
me.
like a walking simulator.
Yeah, it looked like there was a lot more interesting stuff going on.
Well, I mean, they made
I'm
a
not
joke that
saying
they
I'm gonna
actually
go buy
like
this.
gave him a gun. Not that
Yeah,
that's what
exactly.
makes the game fun, but like looks more fun than just walking around with a baby in a backpack.
What I will say is that it looked, as did the first one. There's two things about the first trailer and this trailer that they have in common, which is it visually looked amazing. I don't think you can deny that. And also, Hideo Kojima does not know how to make trailers. He does not seem to know what trailers are, because this is not a trailer. I know I said
Well, I
this
think
the first time
this was
when we
supposed to
talked
be like
through Death Stranding.
A gameplay reveal, not so much a trailer, right?
I see the video labeled official gameplay trailer. I know for a fact that with Death Stranding, we saw something that was paced out almost exactly the same as this. And it's like, the thing that makes no sense about it, and again, I know the first one did this too, they showed the title like the trailer was going to end like 5 minutes into a 9-minute video. I'm like, what are you doing? Because then afterwards there's 4 minutes where you're like, okay, can we just go and be done? And they're like, no, we got 4 more minutes for you. And I'm like, well, then why did you show the title card like the trailer was ending? And he literally doesn't know what the trailer is. He doesn't know how to structure it. It doesn't make any sense. And yeah, then there's like a weird crying baby, and that makes it worse for me.
And then Elle Fanning shows up randomly. We don't know what she's doing there, but she's there.
Who?
Elle Fanning. She was the blonde chick at the end.
Oh, yeah,
just
yeah.
Kind of like loitering.
She shows up at the very... She's up to no good, that's for sure. At least that was my takeaway. That was very long, and let me be clear. None of it surprised me. I did think that there were elements of it that interested me more than the first mega long gameplay trailer, quote unquote. But I'm still not going to... This is not going to make me buy and play either one of these games. It's such an either if you either like it or you don't situation. There are people who saw this and were like, oh yes, and like put their pre-order money down and what have you. I guess it's just not for us, and I'm sure that's where we landed the first time when we watched this.
I don't usually revel in hating on something, but like I have never been more confused in my life than I have been watching anything related to Death Stranding in the numerous years that I've been exposed to Death Stranding stuff. And it's just like, at a certain point, my brain is just like, why? Why am I subjected to this constantly? What is this? It's
priding itself. And again, based on its seemingly either not knowing or refusing to, behave as a trailer should, the trailer doesn't tell you anything. Like, I remember the first Death Stranding trailer, I was like, I don't know what the story was. This is just a collection of images that look good, and like it's kind of putting out a general vibe, but like you end the trailer being like, I don't know what the story is and whether I'm even interested in playing this game. It's like, what are we doing here? I'm going to, use that thought to transition into, I hope I'm pronouncing this right because I never said it, the Physint video. And I'm going to just continue to, I think Hideo Kojima is a great guy. I think he writes really hilarious movie reviews on Twitter, by the way, if you haven't looked at those. He's clearly a genius. He's made a lot of great games. This video was a waste of time. And I think that he was forced to make it. I don't think it's his fault, but it was a waste of time. It didn't tell us anything. And he was like, we haven't even started working on it yet, but we're gonna. And I was like, why did I watch this? Am I the only one that felt that way? Because like I very strongly felt that way.
No, I felt the same way.
Yeah, like it gave us the title at the very end, but otherwise it was that other guy who I assume is like some bigwig for Sony. I actually don't know who that guy is. Basically being like holding Hideo Kojima at gunpoint and being like, tell us what you're working on so we can get people to buy our console, please. That's what this came off as. Maybe this is just because, again, I'm not a Kojima person, but like, what about this was supposed to invest me? Because none of it did.
I feel like, and again, I really like, I'm sure somebody out there understands his creative genius. I don't. But sometimes it feels like we're all just expected to see his name and be like, oh man, this is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I'm just not having it. I'm not having it.
Well, it's because of Metal Gear Solid. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Like, he made Metal Gear Solid. It was a phenomenon, not without reason. And now I think because of that, he kind of has a blank check. There are elements of what was discussed here that for what it's worth do interest me. The idea of like it being like a movie and a game at the same time sounds very interesting.
No, I'm about to get mad.
I could have known that was going to happen.
I'm going to get mad for a second. People are going to be like, wow, this was so creative. What a great idea. Revolutionary. Great. Freaking, what is the Remedy? Tried to do this with Quantum Break and everybody laughed at them and panned the game because it had the TV show in it. And sure, maybe the execution wasn't top notch, but I actually thought it worked pretty well. I think maybe if you allowed the TV show to stand on its own and you could watch it whenever and not be forced at a certain point in the game to watch it, it would have been fantastic. And everybody said that was a mistake and they laughed at them for it. So like, what is the difference? Tell me the difference. But everyone's going to tell him he's a genius.
I think we'll see what the difference is if there is one. Like, I guess my point is,
today.
I could have guessed that that's what this was going to be just based on what Death Stranding is, because that's clearly exactly what Death Stranding is trying to be, and it's what he loves to do. So why wouldn't he just do the same thing with this new thing that he's doing? I don't know. I thought this video was a waste of time. Let's we're really like, I'm feeling like we're very ranty today. So let me try and get a little positive. If you'll allow me a moment to do so. I'm going to jump around here. I don't know that I'm going in order of the showcase. I do not know what Dragon's Dogma 1 is or was. Here's my view of Dragon's Dogma 2. This, and maybe you'll agree, maybe you won't. We talked a few weeks ago about the Xbox showcase. They were talking about what Avowed was, I believe is what the game was called. And we all, I think, kind of agreed that it looked underwhelming and not good. This game, it looks like what I want Avowed to be in a lot of ways. I thought the combat looked excellent in this game, both in terms of the ranged and the close quarters combat. I was really, really into this. I don't know that it's something that I'm going to go out and buy, if only because I don't know what Dragon's Dogma 1 is, but this was a trailer, man. I thought this was really well executed. I think the gameplay looks really tight, so I was into that one. I don't know if you guys had any reaction to that one or if you saw any of it.
This is one of those games that, the genre is up my alley. My problem is that I never went back and played Dragon's Dogma 1, and that was one that actually, I think they remastered it or at least optimized it for the Switch at one point, and I thought about buying it, and I didn't. And maybe if I play that first, it looks good, but I always feel weird and icky about jumping into a franchise without having played the first
same
game.
here. Absolutely agreed. Same here. So that's my hesitance as well. I don't know. Dragon's Dogma 2012 is when the first one came out. So yeah, you could be argued that I'm a little bit behind. I don't know. I think it looked great. Like you said, it looks genre-wise looks like it would potentially be up my alley. So I just think that, especially after the Kojima Fest that I didn't understand, I was kind of into that. Are there any things that have not yet been mentioned by us that particularly tickled your fancy?
Sonic.
Sonic looked good. It looked like, I'll let you speak to it, but I think I know why you were into it.
Well, specifically,
the fact
who
you
gives
like
a crap about that? I Sonic side-scroller was fine when I was a kid, but once I tasted, and I go off on this rant literally every single time any Sonic content comes out.
Yeah, this is what I was expecting.
Once I tasted Sonic Adventure Battle 2, man, that is the type of Sonic that slapped. That's why I raved about Sonic Frontiers. It was my game of the year one of these past years, and that gameplay just hits so good. And they've now added Shadow, and the Shadow part of this game looks exactly like Sonic Adventure Battle 2. We don't talk about the time when he had guns. That doesn't count. That wasn't the gameplay. That wasn't the vibe. It was off. This is great. Throw in some Chow Babies. I'm all in.
Yeah, we've talked about Sonic Adventure 2 on this show before. This is a game that was I played it on the GameCube. We both played it and loved it. Nerdbomber, I don't remember if you did or not, but I agree completely with your take, Techtic, which is that I think this trailer kind of started as it's a Sonic side scroller, and I was like, that Drake meme that's it's him going no no no, and then in the next frame it's him going yeah to whatever's next. They did the side scroller part, and I was doing the no no no. And then they switched to the Sonic Adventure 2 mode. And I was like,
and they even had the big truck, and they showed reference to the first level, the city escape, where he's on the little piece of plane wing, and he's skating down. Oh my God, that's rolling around at the speed of sound. Got places to go, gotta follow my way home. You know the beat. You know it.
You're gonna go through the whole thing? I actually don't remember it that well. I haven't played it in a long time, but
I got it on Steam too.
It's a great game. This looked at least vaguely similar. I will say, I don't know how much I would pay for a Sonic game. I question the level of depth that can be achieved by a Sonic game. Is that unfair of me?
Yeah. Although, I will say, even the gameplay, even the games that slapped, at the end of the day, it's always, guys, we did it, and you know what the secret to doing it was? Friendship.
Teamwork. Oh, yeah.
Wasn't Sonic Frontiers a little bit different, though?
It's friendship. Seriously, it was friendship.
Huh.
Friendship, and it turns out he had a daughter all along. That was it.
Sonic had a daughter?
No, Eggman had it.
He had spoiler. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, we'll bleep that. We'll bleep it out.
It's been out.
We should bleep stuff in our episodes. I think that would be really funny. It would get the people going. Nerdbomber, anything that really tickled the giblets, so to speak?
Judas, I thought looked really good. I'm
interested.
I like BioShock. The one thing that always got me about BioShock was that it was a little too creepy. So BioShock Infinite then was right up my alley because it still had some level of unsettling, environments and characters and stuff like that. But it was just not as many jump scares. It was everything was just a little bit lighter. You weren't wandering around in the dark. And so this looks a little bit more akin to, I guess, Infinite in that you're not wandering around in the dark. There's just weird stuff going on and you have powers. And so that's the kind of stuff I like. And I don't know, it just looked neat. I like the art style of these type of games too.
Also, the trailer was fantastic. Where they're like,
Yeah,
you're a frog boiling, and then you don't even know until it's too late. I was like, oh my god, tell me more, lady, tell me more.
Yeah, so creator BioShock made this game. It looks very similar to BioShock. I would say, like, I did like the trailer a lot. The trailer is making a lot of it was very I don't know if salacious is the right word, but like it was just dropping a lot of world. It was like, we're gonna do a lot of world building, and you're gonna like it. That was like the main thing. They were like, oh, and wearing this hat that says "I shamed Judas," and like, is the ship that they're on called Judas? What is Judas? And like the shirts they're all wearing. I had a lot more questions than answers, which I'm not saying is a bad thing to have in a trailer of appropriate length. Hint, hint. That's Death Stranding. But yeah, they showed us a little bit of combat. They basically confirm. I think what this trailer was designed to do and what it did do is basically confirm, okay, guys, the creator of BioShock is making another game that's basically BioShock. So if that's what you wanted, which it probably is, then we'll take your money. Like, that was its mission, and I think it fully succeeded in accomplishing that.
Yeah, and they can have my money.
I think they can have mine too. It's the weirdest thing. We talked about this on the show before. I couldn't get into Infinite. I haven't tried in a while, admittedly, but like I initially tried, and I think at the time I might have just been like done with BioShock. I was just like, I'm gonna move on. But BioShock 1 was like, man, that game was freaking incredible.
Yeah, and you know what the key was?
Such a big fan.
I bought BioShock 1 in a GameStop mall.
Is that actually true?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I actually might have done the same thing. I might have bought BioShock in a mall. I don't know. Actually, it would have been in a GameStop in a mall. Shout out to GameStop, another potentially dying company. Yeah, Judas looked cool. We don't have to belabor this because I know this is like the most non-Nerdbomber game maybe in the history of games. I don't know anything about Silent Hill. Let me say that. The short message
I thought Silent
looked pretty
Hill
interesting.
was based on like a bunch of inbred cannibals. I'm very confused about.
No, that's the Hills. Isn't that the Hills Have Eyes?
Oh yeah, and they weren't very quiet about it.
Yeah, I think you're describing the Hills Have Eyes, which I've never seen, but that's what I've heard.
Yeah, I think you're right, and that's why these are Silent Hill, because they're a little more.
Silent Hill, the short message is, first of all, it's free, so like right away, bingo bango. If I don't have to know a whole lot about Silent Hill, then I'm into it looks like just play a spooky walking simulator. That's what this looked like. I don't think you're going to be doing a whole lot except for like opening doors and running away from stuff. And if the mood hits you right, that can be really fun, and this looks pretty decently produced. So I don't know that it's a good jumping in point for Silent Hill. It may be the kind of thing that I play it and I'm like, I don't understand what just happened, but I had a good time. And then I kind of just like walk away from it.
I'm going to come flying in with a hot take again. Sorry.
Please.
So between this and Death Stranding, I saw some weird stuff, right? Is everybody okay? Like, who's coming up with this stuff? And are you okay? Do you need a hug? Why was there a creature that had legs on top and bottom? And
yeah, no, that was Silent Hill 2.
Yeah,
that was a different
I know.
game.
No,
but I have questions about that too.
No, but between Death Stranding and Silent Hill 2, like, are y'all good?
I mean, I'm personally okay.
No, but
I'm personally okay. But like,
designers,
I get your point.
You okay out there?
I was, yeah. Like, I will say, Silent Hill 2, I was confused by it because I was like, this is. I think it's supposed to be a remaster, but it looked like a GameCube game graphically.
I bet you the graphic artists that were in charge of these games are the like most happy-go-lucky people you've ever met too.
Yeah, they may be pouring their discontent into this and then like just going home and living the best life, you know?
10 out of 10 recommend.
I hope that for them. Silent Hill 2, same thing. I was like, maybe I should have played Silent Hill and like been invested in that because it looks like a franchise that I might, get some mileage out of because I like scary stuff, You could argue though that Silent Hill 2 with the leg people might be a bridge too far because it's spooky stuff. Or as Nerdbomber would put it, is everyone okay? Which is I think probably a valid question. What else do we want to discuss here? I think we had a lot of other. I don't want to call it filler, but a lot of like, hey, this is a game you already knew about and it's coming up soon. Is there anything we want to explicitly make mention of before moving on?
No.
Okay, we will move on. If we missed something that you were particularly jazzed about, you can just go ahead and hit us up on Twitter at @OW86, at OW Techtic, at OW Nerdbomber, and our main show account at Online Warriors 1. The one thing we didn't mention, I want to just give a quick passing drive-by to. I think Until Dawn was great. That didn't look like a very good remaster. It looked pretty half-baked, and I don't know if I'm on board with that. I think I would rather they made it like an Until Dawn 2 or something. So it's a great concept. So talk to us about that or anything else we talked about or anything we didn't talk about over on the Twitter sphere. We're going to take a short break and come back to talk about Xbox. We're going to flip the script. No more Sony. Actually, it's kind of both, but we're going to be talking mostly about Xbox. Before we do that, though, before we take our break and come back, it's that time in the episode. Mr. Stephen Keller, take a bow, my friend. Stephen has been supporting us at the highest of our 3 levels of Patreon support, which is the night level. He is a producer on this show. As a result, he gets input into the weekly game segment. He gets this shout out every episode. He gets the occasional guest spot on the show. And he, of course, gets access to the monthly secret segment and the monthly vlog. There are 3 levels of Patreon support. The second level is the Squire level of support, which gets you access to the Patreon. Gets you access to the secret segment and the vlog. And there's also a page level, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment. If you want to know how to support the show, give back to us, and consider helping this show keep itself going, you can head over to patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast. Take a look at the details there and consider hanging out with us. Thanks again to Stephen, and we will be right back to talk about Xbox.
Hey everyone, my name is Josh and I am the host of the Still Loading podcast. On Still Loading, I talk about retro and modern video games, video game history, as well as some goofy projects such as an episode of dramatic readings of video game manuals. I've also had composers like Austin Wintory, Andrew Prallo, and Chad Sider on to talk about their upcoming projects. New episodes are released every other Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to check out the show, you can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Welcome back. We are going to talk now about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle and also Starfield. We talked about Indiana Jones a couple weeks ago. I don't think it was last week. I think it was the week before that. This got a big trailer at the Xbox Dev Direct. People are very excited about it. I think I had some not so nice things to say about it when we talked about it, but at the end of the day, it's Indiana Jones. It's splashy. It's going to put a lot of butts in the seats, as they say in the biz. The news coming out now is that game, as well as possibly Starfield, are reportedly being considered for PS5, potentially indicating a new multi-platform approach within Microsoft for certain Xbox games.
And you said you're not going to play it.
Forward.
Well, la-dee-da.
So, first of all, I maintain that opinion. I don't know that I will play it. Second of all, to get into more specifics, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle would launch exclusively on Xbox and PC in December 2024 and would arrive on PS5 after a quote-unquote rather short period that could just be quote-unquote some months later. There are other games with which this is rumored, Hi-Fi Rush and the Sea of Thieves. Starfield, as I mentioned, has also had rumors of this treatment as well. Let me start the conversation by asking this. Given the fact that, a lot of people play PlayStation and PlayStation only and would buy these games and give Microsoft money, is this particularly surprising?
I think yes, because if they do decide to make this move, it almost spells the end of the Xbox brand, or hardware at least, because when you have exclusive games, the intent and purpose of having exclusive games is to drive hardware sales. If you get rid of that, and especially I know in the past too, they've also thought about, trying to get Game Pass on other platforms, that kind of says to me, you're moving away from hardware and now you're just focusing on making games or making a service.
Okay, I think that's a reasonable statement. I guess when you color this in the context of what Sony does, which is they make PlayStation exclusives that actually remain exclusives, it does seem a little bit like they're
The writing.
I don't know what the expression would be. Maybe that's the one. But I guess I see it as, okay, more people will buy your games. But I guess, is it fair to say that they're abandoning their stalwarts? Or are they betraying people who were like, oh, I'm going to get an Xbox because Starfield's on Xbox and not PlayStation? Are people going to be mad about it is another question that I would have.
It's sort of interesting because doesn't Microsoft, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't they own the studio that created Starfield?
Yeah.
And so...
Yes.
It's a first-party game.
It's a bit of a conflict of interest, right? They have to say, well, if we have a console exclusive, then we're only going to sell this game on our console, but we're not going to make money on the game after that. Versus if we only own the console, then we don't care about game sales. And so
I don't think you're kind of putting them in two separate buckets, and I think they're kind of one and the same in a way. I think you can still make money on a game if you have an exclusive game for your console, if you have the install base. I mean, look at what PlayStation does. God of War, Spider-Man, those did not lose money because they were exclusive to PlayStation. And I don't even necessarily know if that drove console sales at this point, because I think almost everybody, that's a little bit too much of a broad sweeping statement, but the install base of PS5 is fairly high at this point, where they're just making games to make good games and to keep their ecosystem thriving, but they're still making money on those games. Like, they're not losing money on those games. It's not a lost leader.
Yeah, I think I agree. I wonder the extent to which this is a reactionary move. I guess I don't know exactly how Starfield has done, like, commercially for Microsoft. Are they seeing the numbers with Starfield and saying, oh crap, we need to pivot because this is not filling the coffers the way we thought that it would? That's, I guess, a guess as to why they're considering making this move.
My concern with this whole thing, if this does spell the end for, Xbox as the hardware, like a physical console, it makes me a little wary about the future. I don't like, a single player in the console game.
You want competition to drive competition.
Exactly. You want competition. Like, if you look back, and the reason why we have games like God of War 2018, the entire Spider-Man franchise, Horizon, The Last of Us, the reason why those games exist is because PlayStation fell behind Xbox in the 360 PS3 era. And so they needed to right the ship when the PlayStation 4 came along, or I guess The Last of Us was PS3, but they needed to right the ship, and they did so by creating these blockbuster experiences that became must-plays. And so people started dipping their toes back into the PS4 instead of, staying faithful to the Xbox ecosystem. And that's been one of the major critiques for the last two generations of Xbox. They don't have that singular title. They thought Starfield might be it, but that didn't drive enough sales. And I think, unfortunately, it's just because they released it too late into the console cycle. Like, if it came out with the release of these two consoles this generation, I think maybe it would have swayed people, because if I'm remembering right, the PlayStation 5 didn't launch with anything specifically. And I think only having one hardware player in the game is just really bad. And I know Microsoft will still make games, but what's going to then push the hardware forward? And I know you can say the Switch is out there, but I feel like the Switch and the PlayStation/Xbox, like, those are two different genres of console. They don't necessarily push each other. I don't know. It just feels bad if that's the path that Xbox is taking.
So I think the big PS5 launch title was Miles Morales.
But that also came out on PlayStation 4.
It did, but I know that when I got my PS5, it came with Miles Morales. Like, I think it was quite often bundled with the PS5. Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. I want to discuss the extent, if any, to which Game Pass plays into this. Does Game Pass still provide the fact that you're going to get Starfield on Game Pass? Starfield was on Game Pass, right? I assume it is.
Right, but Nerdbomber had just mentioned that they're looking at Game Pass being more of a cross-platform thing. And so if you get rid of that, your console's kaput.
Yeah, I think it would make more sense for them to keep Game Pass on the Xbox and basically say, hey, if you're in the Xbox ecosystem, you can play Starfield for free on release day. If you're on PS5, you're going to play it months down the road and you're going to have to pay for it. To me, that's a perfectly reasonable sell to try and to continue to draw people to your console while also making money off of, PS5 players. I don't know for sure how the dollars and cents would work out, but that's the angle I would go. If you're going to expand to other consoles, you still need to maintain some kind of tether to your console base to make it enticing for them.
I just know I'm a little bit of a stubborn asshole, right? And I own both consoles, but sometimes, like, I just want to play a game on a specific console for whatever reason. Like, either, I've played previous entries in that game on a specific one and I want to keep it, like, congruent in case my save game carries forward, what have you. I will wait. Like, that is what I think the timed exclusive thing, like, I think they underestimate, especially in this economy. I know we're circling back now, bringing it back full circle. People are okay with waiting.
I love waiting. I mean, God, I just played God of War for the first, and granted, I wasn't like jonesing for it when it first came out, but like there have been plenty of games where I've been like, I want to play this very badly, but like I'm a patient guy. I have other things I can do with my time, and like for me, yeah, it's mostly it's not a matter of like which console it's out on. It's more a matter of like I'm gonna wait until the game's not $70 and I'm gonna buy it, and that's worked out for me more times than I can count. So like I agree with you completely. I think that's generally underestimated by the game industry of like, gamers having power of will. And like, I'm not saying that all of us do, because some of us definitely don't, but like people can wait. And I know for me, I would never, because of timed exclusivity, I would never go out and buy an Xbox. Even if like, I don't even know what game would have to come out on Xbox for me to be like, I need to go buy an Xbox right now. Yeah, I don't know. This is an interesting move. Hasn't been confirmed. I should note that. Has not been confirmed that this is going to happen. This is, at this point, a rumor. But I think, in particular, Indiana Jones releasing cross-console would be pretty splashy. So we'll have to keep our eye on that. And again, on Twitter, let us know what you think of this move. Handles mentioned previously in the episode. Let's have a conversation about console exclusivity and, whether Xbox is potentially doing the right thing by executing this plan or not. It's What Are You Up To Wednesday time. This is a big one for me. And I don't mean a big one in that I have a lot to talk about. It's just that every so often a thing comes along in my life and happens, and I experience it so fully that I'm like, I need to really, really emphasize how good it is on the podcast. In this case, that thing is a show on Netflix called Beef. Are you guys familiar with this show?
Oh, yeah.
Beef.
We watched this.
Sorry, you said you watched it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we watched this.
Yeah, it's about two people
Guys,
that had beef with each other.
It was so good. My wife and I watched it.
Weird
in like
ending,
3 days,
but good.
That's a reasonable take. The last episode is very strange. Without getting into spoilers, I kind of liked it. Like I liked where it ended up. Steven Yeun is like, he's like the best actor ever. I think we're kind of all learning. Like he was in Walking Dead and people were like, and then he was in like Minari and now this, and like people are like, oh
he has
wow,
quite an
like,
impressive range. It's surprising.
Him and Ali Wong both were good. I thought he was better.
She was a little bit grating, but I think that was intentional on her personality.
It's the point.
Yeah.
They're driving the show. It's such a good show. It's a very timely show, it feels like, because there's a constant undertone of dissatisfaction that I think a lot of us feel in our lives at a fairly constant rate. And I don't mean that as like, oh man, we all have bad lives. I just think that like, I think things in today's society encourage us to feel that way a lot. And I think this touched that nerve very effectively for me, at least. It's 10 episodes. As far as I know, there's only one season. I've read some things that suggest that they could do more. What I will say is that they're half-hour episodes, 10 episodes. It's not a huge time impact to watch it, and I can't recommend it enough. Also, amazing needle drops. Like every episode had at least one needle drop, seemingly from like this era of time from like the mid 2000s and like the late 90s that was just banger after banger, and then that heightened the experience. So again, Beef on Netflix. Also, I should note that when my wife first suggested watching this show, I thought it was about two chefs that were fighting, and that's why it was called Beef.
They're
hilarious.
Not
chefs. Neither one of them is a chef. I made that part up, but they are fighting. They get into a beef, and it escalates. Yeah, that's really all I had to talk about. I just really wanted to say that it's a great show. Also, and part of the reason my wife and I watched it is that it recently won like a jillion Emmys and like Golden Globes. Everyone's like, this is the best thing ever. And I can confirm after watching it that they are all well-deserved. So check it out. I don't really have anything else to update on. I'm still reading Murtaugh. It's going well, but it's a long book. So like, I'm not going to give many more thoughts until I get to the end of it. Bearing all that in mind, I'll swing it over to Techtic to continue carrying us along.
So another good show to check out is Wolf Like Me. I haven't really been up to much this past week, just kind of the same old, working on the game and stuff. But Wolf Like Me is sort of a short show, fills in the voids when I don't feel like being productive. And it's kind of an interesting premise. We're on season 2, and the premise is a single father gets back into the dating world, but the person who he falls in love with turns into a wolf on the full moon. And so it's navigating the whole life about that. I don't want to give spoilers into season 2, so we're just going to keep it vague at season 1. That's that premise, and it's pretty good. It's not like top tier show, but like it's entertaining is what I'm going to say. There's a lot of things that I'm like, oh, why would they do it that way? That's dumb, but entertaining. So that's my rave review. Probably not rave, but definitely a review. and I'll kick it over to Nerdbomber.
So the other thing that we basically did was watch the Grammys. It's been one of those weeks where it just felt like it flew by and I don't really know what I did. So the Grammys is really the one thing that I can kind of like lock in on. I haven't watched the Grammys in a really long time, probably since I was in like middle school. I just usually do not pay attention. Of course, you know, as a Taylor Swift fan, there was rumors of a album announcement, and of course there was. She announced a new album, not the Reputation re-recording, but a new album dropping in April. But I was also watching, you know, for a few other artists that have been really digging lately. Boy Genius basically swept. I mean, they didn't sweep all of their nominations because I think they went up against Taylor Swift for like Album of the Year, and clearly she won that. But they won 3 Grammys. Noah Kahan, Victoria Monet, I don't know you, sorry, but Noah Kahan's my boy and he got robbed, I think. If only for the fact that Victoria Monet, from what I've heard, has been Grammy nominated before and she won for Best New Artist. And my boy Noah has never been Grammy nominated before, so I don't know what classifies new artist, but hey. But I mean, it was cool. Celine Dion showed up. I love my girl Celine. She's a legend. And I don't know, it's just neat.
How was Trevor Noah?
He was actually quite funny.
Can I ask that?
I enjoyed his monologue.
I'm closely monitoring award show hosts because, like, I still think
he was
there's
better.
no
He
way
was
to do
pretty
it well. Okay,
Yeah, I would
I
say
buy that. I like him well enough. So
the only thing that was a little bit cringy, and I don't know if this is a fault of him because like you have to transition somehow, but like after a performer, he'd be like, all right, during the clapping. And it's just like, can we just, instead of doing that, because like then they'd have him talk a little bit, like I would have preferred from a production standpoint, after the performance, they just like fade to and coming up instead of that. But
is he like trying to quiet the crowd down? Is it saying all right like that? Him like,
a little,
him being
it's
all
like
right, stop clapping.
50-50, you know, like he's sort of cheering with them,
Like-
but also trying to like transition past the applause.
Yeah,
And it's like,
He's in charge of moving the show along.
Right.
Probably. There's probably a producer in his ear being like, they're clapping too long. You move them along.
so
And he
like,
goes, all right.
I don't fault him for that, but that was my only beef with him. Otherwise, I thought he was funny. His jokes were on the mark and not offensive. And, you know, what more can you ask for?
He basically took the same humor from his show where he doesn't laugh, he doesn't make jokes to make poke fun of people, but he pokes fun at the system that is the world holistically, and I think that's in good taste.
Well, he's not on that show anymore. Which, speaking of which, mini news. Did you hear who's taking over that show? I think on like Monday nights now until the election is over. Jon Stewart, he's coming back.
Interesting.
Show.
Wasn't he, didn't he have his own Apple show? Or is that over
Yeah, I
now?
think that died. I don't know. It either died or it's like not. It's like there's seasons of it and it's there between seasons. Which, if Severance is any indication, means we're going to be waiting like 6 years until the next season. Shout out to Severance. We want season 2. We want it now. Yeah, I didn't watch the Grammys. I don't. This is going to sound like a very douchey thing to say, for lack of a better term, but I just like don't listen to popular music of any kind. So I kind of like don't care. That's like my, and it's been that way for many, many years. And it's probably the way it's going to remain. I'm glad it was enjoyable. I guess that's also kind of me continuing my tirade against award shows. I don't even know if I'm going to like watch the Oscars, and the Oscars are like kind of my thing. I'm just kind of like sick of award shows. So with that in mind, let's do a quiz about ancient Egyptian gods. How does that sound? We'll really round this thing out. The quiz tracking, the quiz records. I'm at 3-1, guys. This is big for me. I'm in the lead right now. Techtic is at 2-1, Nerdbomber at 2-2, Steven 1-0. Congrats. So Nerdbomber, you have a chance to leapfrog Mr. T today. Techtic, do you mind if I call you Mr. T? Do you pity the fool? Would you say you pity the fool?
Mr. T is my father's name. I prefer just T.
Just T? You got a T. All right, we're going to talk about ancient Egyptian gods. I have 5 questions in front of me, all of them numerically based. You guys know the drill. You get one answer of 1 or a +1 per game. Given that Techtic is currently in the lead, he will go first and answer the first question. I had to get a little creative with these. There's not a lot of numerical facts surrounding ancient Egyptian gods, so you're just going to have to bear with me here. One Egyptian god of note is Seth. It might actually be pronounced Set, but it's spelled like Seth. How many baby boys in 2021 were born and named Seth? This is how this quiz is going to be, guys. We're really stretching the definition, but I think it's in a fun way.
And I go first?
No, Techtic goes first because he is in first place.
That's right.
342,000 Seths.
I feel like we live in an era where names are not Seth. I'm going to say 5,000.
I want to put that. Let's put that on a T-shirt. I feel like we live in an era where names are not Seth. First of all, this is funny. So I guess I don't know how many babies are born a year, but you guys both flew way past the mark.
Really?
597 is what I have.
That's it?
Seth.
I mean, I guess
597 Seths. I think I think you're right, Nerdbomber, that Seth has gone out of style, but I also think that like maybe not that many babies are born. 342,000 seems like a lot, but maybe I'm totally wrong. I don't know. Someone
In this
chime up in the
economy,
comments.
that tracks. Ha! The middle class.
Sorry, this is okay. So in 2023, there were 134.28 million babies born in the United States.
What? That's like a third of the population of the country. That doesn't make any sense.
The birth rate for the U.S. in 2023 was 12 births per 1,000 people.
Well, then the numbers don't make sense. 12 births per 1,000 people, and there's 330-something million people in this country.
Well, you're forgetting deaths. People die too. And it's going down.
Is it that many? Is the mathin'? We'll back that out later. I find it hard to believe that if over 100 million babies are being born, only 597 of them are being named Seth. So either you're wrong or I am.
Because you got Braxton, Saxton, I don't know, Aiden, Caden, Braden.
About a million Aidens.
Look, I'm just telling you
okay.
what Bing told me.
Yeah, I might have to check my facts. That may be an invalid question, but we'll deal with it if there's cause.
You know, what'd be a cool baby name. Side note: Cage.
I don't know that I agree. We can talk about that offline. What is the earliest appearance of Egyptian gods in just documented history?
In 2021, the CDC reported a total of 3.5 million births.
Okay, that's still a lot. I'll have to check my answers. Nerdbomber, what is the earliest appearance of Egyptian gods in recorded history? I'm looking for a year.
I'm going to say 50,000 BC.
That's a really good guess.
Yeah, one out of every 3,117 babies born in 2021 are named Seth. So it's really just a really unique name at this point. That's kind of fascinating.
I'm going to cut it in half and say 20,000 BC.
So we had 50,000 and 20,000 BC?
Yeah.
All right. Techtic takes the point. 3,100 BC. I think the falling down point here might have just been that you guys thought ancient Egypt was older than it is.
No, I know exactly how old it is, and I know she flew way over.
So that's a point for T-Dog. Moving right along, how many Egyptian gods are there reportedly? It's a bit of an inexact figure, but just try to ballpark it for me. And again, Techtic will go first this time.
100. No. 150.
Okay. Good correction, Nerdbomber.
151.
It's like that's when Mew dropped, and we were like, oh,
There's
shit.
+1. Used to great effect. It's actually over 2,000, guys. That's the answer, by the way. Over 2,000. So I was hoping one of you wasn't going to say 2,000. That would have been awkward. Luckily, you weren't even close. So Nerdbomber takes the point, and it's all tied up going into question 4. These last two questions, I think, are my pièce de résistance of questions. So just really strap in. You guys all know the sun god, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Star wide receiver of the Detroit Lions. How many receptions did Amon-Ra St. Brown have this year, including playoffs?
115 receptions.
And Techtic, over to you.
That's a gamesmanship answer.
Oh, also, Nerdbomber, I'm going to give you a chance to issue a correction. It's actually only the regular season. If you want to change your answer, you can. I'm not saying you have to.
I'm going to go 105.
Okay.
1.
Techtic, that was a waste. He actually, Nerdbomber, your first answer was incredibly close. He had 119 regular season receptions and 22 in the postseason. The dude balls real hard. He's real good. If you're not a fantasy football player, if you become one, you should draft him next season. So Nerdbomber's ahead going into the last question. Techtic, you have a chance to tie it up here and take us into tiebreaker and force me to quickly try and find a tiebreaker. So I don't know whether you want to do that. It's totally up to you. You do go first though. The hit 1999 film The Mummy.
Of course.
Who was the daddy?
What did it pull in at the box office in USD?
1.2 million. Wait, global or US? You said you had 1.2 million.
I actually didn't specify. I believe we're talking globe.
Okay, can I change my answer?
Yeah, we're You can change your answer. We're talking
15
global.
million.
This was a
And over to Nerdbomber.
blockbuster. 30 mil.
Yeah, you guys are orders of magnitude off the pace. Nerdbomber takes it 416.4 million. Guys, this movie was amazing. You really 15 million? What the heck? I'm insulted on behalf of this movie. 416.4 million. So Nerdbomber takes it home. Yeah, it is this movie in which they search for the Book of Amun-Ra. Amun-Ra St. Brown's book, his playbook. They're looking for it for this whole movie. Great movie. You should all watch it if you haven't watched it. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Nerdbomber takes it home. Techtic, she kind of smoked you, man. I mean, I don't know. You might need to use this as motivation.
You should
Start
feel bad.
training. Nerdbomber moves to 3 and 2. Techtic to 2 and 2. Therefore, being leapfrogged. However, I still remain top dog percentage wise at 3 and 1. Actually, Steven is top dog percentage wise at 1 and 0. We'll be back next week to hit you with another quiz. I suspect next week. I don't usually do next week's episode teasers. If only because, life happens and maybe this won't actually be what we talk about. But I imagine next week we might talk about Super Bowl commercials. We'll see. I guess it really depends on what commercials are good. But that's, again, something that we'll have to assess. In the meantime, we hope you all have a great week. You can head over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. Let us know what you thought of the show, whether you liked it, whether you didn't like it, whether you just felt kind of whatever about it. That's totally fine too. Hit us up over there. Hit us up on Patreon, patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast. Hit us up on Twitter, handles mentioned previously in the episode. And stay safe. Keep on podcasting.